In Canada, they are.
Well, Canada is not even a country.
Right, it's not even a country, and they are overwhelmed with guilt. They are so.
Well, they're murdering. The government is murdering tens of thousands of its citizens every year. They're almost all white, and now they're going to be doing it to kids. And by the way, under the MAID's program, they're harvesting the organs. They're harvesting the organs from the Canadians they kill. So this is like the darkest thing. That's like, I would feel much freer and safer living in China than Canada. I can't believe I'm saying that. I actually love Canada. But that's happening, and no one's saying a word about it.
Yeah, that in particular is one of those things that it's so dark and so depraved that when you talk about it, I think a lot of people, especially in America, they think you're making it up or you're exaggerating.
I almost don't talk about it very often because I don't think anyone believes it, but I live right near Canada, and I know, and I'm like the only American who really sincerely loves Canada because it's just so beautiful. Not the only, but not many people care about Canada. I do. So I know a lot of Canadians, and that's absolutely, you'll look it up on the inner tubes. It's there.
It's becoming one of the leading causes of death.
It is one of the leading causes of death.
Is assisted suicide. I mean, just
the government killing you, and not because you have ALS, but because you can't pay your rent, and then extending it to children, and then harvesting the organs and the blood. I mean, I feel like they're a way bigger threat to the United States than Venezuela. I would be open to an argument in favor of invading and occupying Canada on human rights grounds. I'm not joking even a tiny bit. I think it's one of the darkest countries in the world. And it's such a great country with such great people. I don't know how we can allow this to happen without at least saying something about it. I'm not actually arguing for military action, but like maybe threatening it. They're way worse than Maduro. Way worse than Maduro. Yeah. Way worse. So like, but I'm sure I'll be like scolded for, how can you say that? Because it's true.
Yeah, well, the MAID program alone is one of the most evil things happening in the world, period.
Murdering your citizens and harvesting their organs on a greater scale than China does? Really? And it's right there?
I think one of the things that's happening, why are people ignoring this in America? Well, one thing, it's people, it's like not your country, so you think it doesn't affect you. I think it does affect us because also like when you look at Canada and Europe and these guys, we're on the same kind of crazy train. They're just a few train cars up. And so that's why you got to pay attention to where they are, because we're going to be there. So that's one thing.
Yes, thank you.
But I think that also for some conservatives in this country, there's some embarrassment about this because I think there are plenty of conservatives who've been at least indifferent to the issue of euthanasia and have even I've had many arguments with so-called conservatives
actually
over the years. Not as much now because you see what's happening with MAID, but over the years with saying that, well, you know, because they get hung up on this, well, it's a personal choice. And they just think as conservatives, you cannot oppose a personal choice. You can't do it. And it's kind of the libertarian instinct gone way haywire in my mind. And so but now you can see, now those of us who have always been against euthanasia.
So a desperate person has free will? Is that what they're saying?
And that's the problem.
These are children. They don't know what they're talking about.
And also, so those of us who are opposed to it, we have been saying for years, like, this is where it's going to go. Okay, yeah, right now, and the other argument for euthanasia was, well, these are people who are in terrible pain, and they're at death's door. They've only got days or at most weeks to live anyway. They're in horrible pain. You have no idea what it's like. And so they should be able to have a way out. And like from an emotional level, like I get what you're saying. I totally disagree with it. I get what you're saying. Our argument was a few arguments, but the big one was, okay, that's what we're doing. It's already evil to do that even with someone who's terminally ill. They're doing that now, though. It will not stop there because it never stops there. And once you give the state and the medical establishment the authority to kill, they will not stop. It always starts with the most justifiable version of it that they can muster, which is still totally unjustifiable in my view. But they always starts with the most justifiable version, and then next it's like, okay, yeah, but we should include people who maybe they're not terminally ill, but they're chronically ill and they're in a lot of pain, And okay, now we've included them. Well, what about mental illnesses? Well, what about this person over there? He's homeless. Yeah, he's not terminally ill, but his life has no meaning and he's terrible. He lives on the street. And then step. And eventually, you're killing kids too.
But we've seen this. We've seen this. And by the way, I'm older than you, and so they were still teaching this in schools when I was a kid. But the Nazi experiment began with euthanasia, famously. And it wasn't just on a small scale. It was like hundreds of thousands of people killed. And it began with Down syndrome. Like, how could your life be worth living? And then it wound up with Dietrich Bonhoeffer and the Warsaw Ghetto. Like, this was a very clear, much written about continuum that began with murdering the weakest. And then, again, it ended where it famously ended, which was with mass murder. But Hitler was famous for his euthanasia program. He was also famous for like rounding people up and moving them to new places, like is now openly being discussed in Gaza. It's like the whole thing is so bonkers. And it just tells you that human evil is not specific to any group or time or place. It resides in every person. Every person is capable of this kind of behavior, justifying this kind of behavior. And we should all be on guard against it. But like Hitler was very famous for euthanasia. Did you even learn that in school?
No, certainly not.
So funny. Things change. I was in first grade in 1975. And that was like a feature of it. He was bad because he killed people on the basis of like their DNA. That's not allowed. And he killed the weakest, not allowed. And I guess they stopped teaching that.
And the other thing is when you give the medical establishment, when you accept the idea that death is a treatment, you have opened the darkest door imaginable.
Yes.
And this is what's so frustrating is that what are often decried as slippery slope arguments, people talk about, it's a fallacy, slippery slope. First of all, slippery slope is not a fallacy. It's not a fallacious way of making an argument. No. All we're trying to show you is that, okay, here's a door you've opened. Okay, you've made an argument to justify something, and what I'm trying to tell you is that I can take that argument intact and use it to justify this thing over here that we both agree is horrific. And so if I can do that, what that tells me is that, what it should tell you is that either your argument is bad or the thing you're arguing for is bad, or both. And that's what the slippery slope thing is. And that was the point with euthanasia. Once you allow the medical establishment to use death, murder, as a form of medical treatment, you've completely flipped it on its head, because the whole point of medicine is to heal and treat. And so to avoid death and pain, like that's the point of it. And now you've flipped it upside down and you've said that death is the treatment. And so now you've just destroyed the whole thing. You've destroyed it. But
this happened, I think that almost all obstetricians are required to commit abortion during their training.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
So then you wind up with an entire medical corps that's evil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there are a lot of evil doctors, not just a few, but a lot.
Evil or, I guess it's the same thing, but they have to be very indifferent to human life, which is evil.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.